But putting on that weight was not easy.
No.
There were a lot of kids in the gym because I'm 45. And there were a lot of young guys in the gym that talked to me about working out and whatever. And I try to give them advice and whatnot. And they say they want to put on muscle. And I try to say, well, you have to eat. And they're like, I do eat. And then they give me an example of what they eat. And they're like, well, I have a bagel and I have eggs. I'm like, no.
I have 3 eggs and a bagel.
And then I always make them watch your video of the types of shakes you used to make. So can you just tell us, in order to get to that 300 pounds, the types of shakes you used to make and how much you used to have to eat back then?
You know what? I don't think that anyone could have realistically stuck with me for more than one day and consume the amount of food I did. The only person who I think might have consumed more than me or comparable to me would be Greg Kovacs, because his wife would basically make the stuff and put it right in front of him and he would have to eat it. He was like a machine. He drank a lot of shakes though, but he ate a lot. He ate a lot of food. And that's why he was 400 pounds. But, you know, I probably at some point, if I wasn't so lazy, I would try to recreate a day of eating for myself. I wouldn't necessarily eat all the food, but if I just prepared it all and put it in front of me and showed everyone what I consumed on a regular basis, no one would believe it. Yeah. Because if I ate eggs, I ate 12 whole eggs. I mean, they went whether they had to go into a blender or they had to go, you know, I had to just cook them and swallow them like, you know, almost whole, like, you know, because I would poach them and I would just basically take the plate and just slurp them down my throat, you know, and I didn't care. I did anything I had to get the food down. You know, the shakes, the mash shakes that I made that are notorious were 12 egg whites and 12 whole eggs. I would put them into a plastic Tupperware container, because somehow I had this thing in my head that I was going to get like salmonella from them from drinking them raw. It would have been way easier if I didn't. So I would cook them in the microwave for a minute, and they would start to turn, like the whites would start to turn like gel-like. You know, they would actually almost start being like real eggs. And then I would throw those in the blender. So not only were they partially cooked, but they were hot. So I throw 12 hot eggs into the blender. Then I'm putting like a cup of apple juice, a cup of uncooked oats, okay, a packet of Metrex, which was like almost 40 grams of protein there, and about 25, 30 grams of carbs. And then I would put, what else did I put in there? I'm trying to think now. Apple juice. I think that was it. And then I had, if you remember at the time, there was like Designer Whey was out. I would put a scoop of Designer Whey. So it had to be at least 75, 80 grams of protein in there. And I would blend this up. And when I blended it, I couldn't put the top on the blender because it was filled. I somehow figured it out. It would fill just to the top, but when it would blend, it would almost go over the top and spill over, but it didn't, because I was so perfectly at measuring everything in my head that when the thing was done blending, it looked like cement in a cement mixer because it had no liquid consistency. It was completely sludge. And it was to the top of the blender. So imagine a full blender. And then I would take this blender, I'd go over my sink and I'd gulp it down, and with not even tasting it, just opening my throat up and letting the thing go down my throat. And it was so much volume and it was so thick, you know, stimulating that gag reflex, that I would then have to lean over the sink like this and wait. Because if I didn't get past like 5 minutes, there was always a chance I would throw the thing up. What happened is the saliva would be running down my throat, in my mouth, and I had to try to control that, like psychologically. And sometimes I just couldn't. The whole thing would come up to the sink, and then I would make it again. I would do it again. I would not miss that shake. I would do it again, and I did this like 2 of those shakes a day, in addition to eating like 4 meals, having like 3 or 4 regular Metrex shakes with an Ultra Fuel, which is 100 grams of carbs. And I would do the Ultra Fuel Metrex shakes in the middle of the night. I would do 2 of them. So I never slept more than 3 hours without waking up and having 100 grams of carbs, or 135 grams of carbs with the 38 grams of protein from the Metrex. And I did this around the clock. I used to go to the diner by my house. It was a 24-hour diner in Long Island. They knew me there. I would go there and I would eat like this. It was like a big hamburger. It was like I forget what they call it. It was like a steak burger or something, but it was a burger. It was like, it had to be a pound of beef. Okay. I would eat French fries with it. Sometimes I would have, like a whole plate of chocolate chip pancakes, and I would eat this like at midnight. And then I'd go home and I would have I would still eat a shake at 2 in the morning before I went to bed. Yeah. So no one could do. I'm telling you, no one was able to. People would look at me when they saw what I would do, because they would go out to eat with me, and they'd be having, like you said, like like 3 eggs and like
a bagel,
two pancakes, and I'm having like 12 eggs and like 2 stacks of pancakes, and it was a ridiculous amount of food that I was consuming. And every day I went to McDonald's. There was always a McDonald's every day. 2 triple cheeseburgers, large supersized fry when they had supersized, and I would eat 2 apple pies. That was standard. Like,
and you couldn't put body fat on.
No, and I didn't. And the funny thing was, I didn't even get fat from all this food.
Yeah.
If I didn't eat the food, I would lose weight. So it was a job. It was way harder to gain weight for me than it was to get in shape.